Hi, this is Janet Dills. I am going to be talking about Google Forms is my assessment tool that I use to assess my students in multiple ways, but definitely at the end of the week they take a quiz, and at the end of the unit they take a unit test, and they do all of these on Google Forms. So to find Google Forms, you just go to your little waffle and you have forms here. It might be on the next page that you can push more and find, but it's going to bring you to a page that looks like this, and it already has the option to create a quiz, and you come to something that looks like this. So you have your quiz and you can start creating. So how you create it is, I like to separate my sections. So I separated my first and second section, and I would name whatever whatever the quiz I want. So practice quiz. Okay. And then I would name my section 1, or you can name it question 1. Okay, and then I would go ahead and create another section because you want to, I like to incorporate intervention. So I would do question 1 intervention. Okay, so going back to question 1, if I create my question, so I'm going to add a question, and I can change how my questions are structured. I can change it to a short answer, a longer answer, multiple choice, checkbox, drop down, pretty much any of these options. So let's just keep it, let's do just a short answer, or actually let's do a multiple choice question. When I do my multiple choice question, I can click go to section based on answer. So that is going to allow me to select a correct answer. So if they get it correctly, then they can go to question 2. But if they get it incorrectly, they can go to intervention. Now that looks, let me show you what it looks like. And yeah, I'm at school working on this, so yeah. Okay, so I've got my first question, and I've got the choices. So when you look at, I've put my correct answer, I've marked my correct answer, and I've also said where to go if they get that correct answer. They go straight to question 2. But if they get this answer wrong, all of these options, they go to question number 1, intervention. So when I go to my intervention, okay, they have to analyze the timeline, and then they have to answer the intervention question, which is very closely connected to the intervention image. So my intervention questions also have, if you get it right, you get a second chance to go answer the question, which is this one right here. But if you get it wrong for the second time, it just puts you to the next question. So it boots you to question 2. Question 2 is set up the same way. For every right answer, they get to go on to the next question. But if they get the answer wrong, they go to the intervention for that next question. So the next question is this little video. In this video, they should be able to answer the intervention question. The intervention question, if they get it right, they get a second chance. But if they get it wrong, they get booted to the next question. And the interventions are they're a different way of bringing them back to what the original question was about. So I like it because the intervention, you can Have them watch a short video. You can have them analyze a chart. You can have them watch another little video. I've got maps. I've got charts. This is the only kind of question that I have found that you cannot do intervention with. So check boxes, if you choose to do check boxes, you cannot do an intervention. Google hasn't created that process. And every time you use a checkbox question, you will have to go in there and grade it unless they get it exactly accurate. So say I said check all that apply, choose 4. If they choose 3, it's going to tell them that they need 1 more and not let them go on. But if they choose 4, but they're the wrong 4, it is going to, but 3 of them are right and 1 of them is wrong. It's still going to mark it all wrong until I go in and actually grade it. And we'll get to grading in a second. But I can insert maps. And what I like about doing online forms is because of maps. I don't know how many times I've made black and white copies of maps, and I can't really, grayscales are really hard to do on maps like this because look, I mean, you're literally using pink, light pink, and red. I mean, so it's not really gonna show up very well. My students take this and expand it and make it as big as they need on a computer screen. And that's really important. They don't lose anything in taking the test and using the maps. So I like that. It's easy to put in pictures. You just add them to your drive and add them in. Text is really easy. Videos, it makes it really easy to insert a video because they use YouTube over here on the side. It goes straight from YouTube. So that's easy. And then my review questions. I typically don't break up review questions, and I don't add interventions to review questions. These are questions that's already from the beginning of the year, just as a review to keep them going. Okay, so this is the great thing for the students taking the test. It's really easy. It's interactive. It gives them that built-in intervention. But what is amazing about Google Forms is not about the students. It's about the teachers because it is so easy grading-wise. It really is. So you would hit your response button, okay, and you can see that it comes across and I get stats on every single question broken down. So I can see that 100% of my students mastered those 2 questions. And I can focus in on that material. 100% of my students mastered that question. I mean, it's just really easy. I'm trying to get down to one. Okay, so this one is, I know that from looking at this, it tells me, okay, 4 people did not get that question. So I can address that. That's not a major concern. But this one, the intervention question, makes me think out of those 4 people, this is what they still didn't get it. Or half of them got it. Half of the 4 people got that. So it's great for data. I love it for data. It gives you little pie charts too for yes and no questions. Okay, so this is a question that definitely, it was the checked boxes, so my kids did not get to have an intervention, but this kind of shows you about how like 13% or 13 of my kids, 48% of my kids thought that the wrong answers were correct. So it definitely, I can hit on those. But I like seeing the data. Everybody likes to talk about data. Okay, but going to grading wise. So I can switch to questions, and it goes right here. It shows the question that you were on. And I like this part of questions and grading questions is because I cannot see who is doing what. So if and I think this works better. Let me switch to real quick. I know this is a lot of switching. Let's switch to my unit test. My unit test was all short answer in ERQ. So I've got my title and I've got my first question. So when I switch to my responses and I go to question by question and I start grading my questions, I don't see which student it is. So I'm not prejudging my students' answers based on my students. Like, I don't know. I love this because I am grading based solely on their answer and not anything that they did in class. I'm not grading, I'm just grading them on their work. And I think that sometimes when they realize that, they know it's not personal. Like, I take myself out of the equation pretty much because I'm basing my scores on just their work and not, okay, did they smart off to me or did they talk back to me or they don't do their homework. So it's just based on that. And then you change your question and you go to the next question. You can just select your question or you can just arrow over and you go to the next question and you go down. So you can either, if they get it all right, you can, obviously you can change the score right here. If they get it all right, you can just mark correct and it'll fill in the maximum amount of points. If they get totally wrong, you hit the incorrect and it'll give them the 0. So I love it for grading that way. And then of course you can do it individually, but that to me seems ridiculous because I can stay on the same question if I do it by question and grade everybody's first question, everybody's second question, everybody's third question. So I really like that. Let's see. And I love and you email them their responses. You can email them back, which I like. And in the creation of the test, it's really important to set all your settings. So I always like to collect their email addresses. Most of the time, I limit one response, but what I have been noticing lately is that in our district, with this crazy map testing that's going on, is that they might take the test and submit it, but it might not come through. So they might have to take it again. And if you click that limit to one response, your kids will not be able to do it again. So I just keep that open and I let my kids know if I already received your score and you do it a second time, I'm still only going to take your first score. You don't get a second try. That's what your intervention is for. So respondents can see. And then in the presentation, I like to show the progress bar because it lets them know how long it is. And then when you flip to quizzes, do you want them to see their grade right away? Or do you want to review it first and submit it later? Do you want them to see missed questions or correct answers? I don't know. That's up to you what you want to do. I definitely don't like their immediate grades to go out when they're open-ended questions that they had to answer, short answers, ERQs, because I have to go in and grade them anyways. So they're going to read 0 anyways. So those are some of the things, and then you just make sure that you save it or it won't apply to it. And then it's really easy to do Google Forms if you are already operating in Google Classroom. All you have to do is share the link, and then they can join it. So that is Google Forms. I hope this was a enlightening little tutorial. Thank you.